Hey,
Hi,
what's up, friend?
nothing much. How are you?
I'm alive. Um, so what's up?
Nothing. Just here,
I
trying to support a friend, and all the things.
appreciate you doing this little interview podcast for me because I was thinking of like people. I'm like, who can I contact? Because I like like we like listening to podcasts and stuff
Mhm.
all the time. And I was like, oh, I want to do like an interview type and get their perspective. I and class is over now. We had our last class like 2 weeks ago, maybe or so. But I was working on this project still, thinking of these questions, and I'm like, who can I contact? They'll give me good answers. Who has like unique experience and is placed like in a unique position in the diaspora. And I was like, okay. So thanks, friend. Appreciate
Of
it.
course. So anytime, I love
Anytime.
supporting the things you do. So
Oh, thanks. Anytime, because I will hold you to that. Anyways, so I have some questions and I just want to get your perspective on it. That's cool.
sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So, like I'm taking this class. It's gender and sexuality in the Black diaspora, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to give you two questions about gender. I'm going to give you two questions about like sexuality. That makes sense. So,
Mhm.
so give context. What's your name, your race, and your gender expression?
So my name is Kae Goode. It's right there.
Yeah.
I'm black. Black.
Just
Black.
you never know.
And,
It could be Rachel Dolezal out here. We don't know. You know what I'm
No, not me. It's not. It don't rub off. It's not a tan. But
saying?
yeah. Gender. I guess identity. I guess would be. I guess trans woman, femme. I kind of exist in that area. Um, yeah, trans femme, trans woman. But I say both, but more lines of like being like a black trans femme.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Cool.
that's.
What do you do? I'm meant to ask.
Oh, I do like my job.
Yeah.
Okay, you remember my social links? No, I'm playing. So I am a trans leadership coordinator at this organization called Spark Reproductive Justice Now, and I do like graphic design. I'm a digital artist, so I do some of that work on the side. I'm a little bit of everywhere, but those are like the top two. You know.
Cool. And of course I knew this already, but yeah, your graphic designs are very good lately.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I put my all into it.
That's
Can
very
you hear me? Am I too low?
No, you're good.
Okay, cool, cool.
So first question. Well, second question really. So in my class, I was reading this article called The Invention of Women. I believe her name is Oyaroki Oyewumi. Wumi? I don't know how to say her last name, but it's really good. You really like.
I
You would
actually got the book. I actually haven't read it yet, but I
really,
literally have it on my
really
shelf. Yeah.
look at you. So she like discusses this idea of body reasoning as like a biological interpretation of the social world, right? So um it's like, how you see yourself and what is your placement in the world. Like there's always these like notions of what is a nurse, what is a doctor, what is a poor person, what is a rich person, um, and like social groups. So, um, my question to you is like, as a Black trans woman, has your body reasoning and understanding always been clear, or has it been challenging at times? Um, and like, uh, because we know you've made the journey of transitioning, right? So I'm curious to know, like, have you always known that you were trans, or um, was it something that was slowly developed or dawned on you? Um, and if it hasn't been um, challenging, like, do you feel like I'm asking a lot of questions, sorry. Do you feel like your gender expression, your gender identity is finalized, or is it still developing? It's
Okay,
a question.
so a lot, but I think just thinking about that journey, right? For me, um, I think it's kind of like changed as far as like what transness means to me. I think in the beginning it was very much like I never fit in these groups that you're talking about as far as like what was assigned to me specifically. So thinking about boy or man or whatever, the things I was assigned they didn't necessarily fit with me. But I think even like queerness in some ways didn't necessarily fit with me at certain points. But I think as I like developed and grew into myself, I don't know. I started just like figuring out what that looks like. And then I think once I graduated, I'm trying to make it make sense. Sorry. But
No, you're good. No, you're good.
once I graduated college and like was in a space where I just had to like, where I just existed without having to like think about people who know me, who've known me like, I guess, quote unquote, pre transition.
Yeah.
I use quote unquotes because, how I feel about transitioning. It's like, I don't know. I don't really like. I believe it's a thing, right? I believe it's a thing for a lot of people, but for me, I'm not super invested into it. I just think that I just am. I am here. Like I had a journey, but I'm always having a journey because we're constantly transitioning, regardless if you're trans or not. I personally feel like that.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
sorry, just staying on topic. Um, I think that when I like moved on and graduated school, I kind of graduated college. I was in a space where I was around more queer and trans people, and it made me think more about my identity and like why I identify
It's
with it.
9 o'clock.
Sorry, that's my computer. It does that on every hour. But just like sorry, I'm so sorry. But why I identify with the things that I identify with. So even just like womanhood and like what that means, or even thinking about like how white supremacy very much like is interwoven in these identities.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's kind of been a journey. Um, and that's kind of why I still identify with womanhood, but specifically Black womanhood. But also, like, I identify with just being like a femme, like a Black femme. Um, Damn, I kind of lost the rest of the question.
It's okay. No, you answered all parts of it actually. But I
Okay.
asked if it was like, have you always known? And then I asked you if it is finalized, and you answered both of them.
Well, okay. So the known question, I didn't answer that one, but I want to say just really quick that I've always known that there was something more.
Yeah.
I think when people tried to like fit me into these boxes, I just felt like they weren't for me, right? And then even when I fit into these boxes that people expected me to be, which is like when I got into womanhood, it was like those aren't really for me either.
Yeah.
So it was like I can be who I create myself to be. Not even like aesthetically, but just like personally
I love that.
and just on an individual basis, I guess.
No.
I'm
That's
trying
cool.
I'm trying to keep up,
Why are you weird? Listen, it's fine. We talk about this like all the time.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Um, there's something you said that you said gender is always evolving.
Hmm.
Like briefly, can you talk about that? Like what is that? I never considered that because my identity has always been what was assigned at birth. And like I've never um perhaps maybe the words explore anything else. I've always identified as, you know, cishet. But my sexuality has obviously, like we've talked about, it has like transformed and fluctuated. So yeah, what do you mean by the gender aspect? I never thought about that.
I think when I talk about like evolving, I think it's just like constantly growing. It's always changing and thinking about like for me, I had to escape what the world wanted me to be, which is like even when I transitioned, people still threw expectations onto my body and like how
Wow.
I should move. Even because
Yeah.
you're a woman, hello. But just like thinking about like the folks who are femme identified or who are woman identified, and like thinking about like how so much of their bodies aren't theirs. But I think even just generally, no one's bodies. I mean, thinking about like how a lot of people's bodies aren't really theirs, and they just kind of go with what they're like I don't know, told to do. But also thinking about like specifically women in films, like or not and non men, but thinking about like how I don't know, they have to like they move through the world and like some in so many ways don't even really recognize that like their identity isn't really theirs. So I
Mm,
think for me, my transition into like being femme is just like to say like this is mine and I'm gonna like identify with how I want to, because for so long people have tried to like tell me what I should do. Even like being younger and like being like a person who's fat or curvy or whatever people want to call it, but I just say fat. But being fat, people automatically threw film onto my body because the way my fat sat on my body, or the way body
right.
like the way fat like I guess sitting on my body. So me having like a being curvier,
Right.
having thighs, a butt, and it's like people expected me to be this thing. So yeah, I'm not trying to go on a tangent on that, but so I think for me, saying that my identity is forever evolving. It's me forever like me constantly doing that unpacking work to kind of just like move through my identity. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No, that's cool. No, I'm like listening.
Okay.
Oh,
And then also white supremacy. And white supremacy is like tells you that like your body is never yours. So
right. Or
that
it's yours for like, well, yeah, it's yours for other people, right? Like
yeah.
your body's always up for interpretation
And consumption.
and consumption and questioning, right?
Yes. And also just I feel like for me and like thinking about like me being more connected with my ancestors, I just feel like um I don't know, like my gender is like this thing that's fluid. I don't identify with being like gender fluid or anything, but I think that like I am like constantly doing that work to listen to my body and listen to what it needs and how I need to show up for it. And also listening to like my ancestors and like I don't know. I'm not trying to go fake, I'm not gonna go meta or nothing, but it's just saying like I'm connected to my ancestors. I am them. So I don't know. I'm constantly like just aware of self,
Yeah,
trying to be.
that's really cool. Oh, Kelly. Hmm. Hmm. Second question. So we know that in a westernized world, gender is categorized in like hierarchical and like patriarchal ways, right? Like men than women, right? So
Hmm.
like funny enough, in Yoruba society, I feel like we talked about this a long time ago. Maybe not about Yoruba, but this question. But in Yoruba society, biological facts don't have an influence on how like hierarchy works. So like one's autonomy does not determine their social position. So like with them, it's based on age, right? And like uh the eldest, right? So has more like power, I guess, or social standing. So with that example, do you think the Western world could benefit from that approach? And like, what are some pitfalls of that approach? I have a very, I have an opinion, but go ahead. I asked you.
So, two things. I don't know. It's just hard for me to have like conversations about the Western world, even though I'm existing in it. But I think it's really hard because just thinking about white supremacy and
Right.
I don't know, what does it mean? Like, what do these systems even really mean?
All
And
right.
how do Black people, how do like Black, queer, and trans people specifically like fit into that? So
Mhm.
when we have those conversations, I'm just I don't know.
You just like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I think that they can benefit from like these different structures, right? But also, I don't know. I just like when I think about, can I cuss? Like, if I say, okay, when I think about niggas, like, I think about like,
okay, maybe not that one. I don't know.
I want that for my N words, I want that for
Yeah,
I want that for them. I want them to like navigate in those ways. And I want them to be able to build systems. I mean, to not build systems, but exist in worlds where they are able to like, I don't know,
navigate systems and
not
like,
have the systems that are like slowly like killing them.
yeah, or and impress them.
Yeah. But we've had conversations about what like so many different versions of death because we can talk about social death, and that's kind of what I meant too when I say killing them. It
Yeah.
can be, but it is oppressing them. Agreeing. Sorry. Try
No,
not to go on a
okay.
tangent.
No, it's cool. No,
Oh,
I feel like, I like the idea of Yoruba society having hierarchy based on age versus like anatomy, right?
yeah,
Um, but I still don't like the idea of a hierarchy, period.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's giving me ageism. I don't know.
Yes. So I definitely agree. I thought about that too. I thought about that too when I
Yeah,
saw the question or whatever. I thought about that as well. Like just thinking about ageism, but also thinking about these systems that they're not working.
they're not working. I feel they're not working anywhere.
Yeah.
They're all bull, I
But
think.
I definitely think it worked for like our ancestors at the time or our people at the time.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that we need that now, but I'm just saying that maybe folks who are, invested in liberatory work can look at that, right?
Right.
And use that as like a stepping stone or a tool to like lead them into liberation.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Did I
So
answer the question? I don't.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
I think it's bullshit. I mean, potentially beneficial. I think any like hierarchical structure, like there's always going to be oppression. I feel like if there's any structure, there's always going to be oppression, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, like if someone told me like can the world function without oppression or systems in general, I'm like, I don't know. It's just a free for all.
Based, like if we censor communities and censor people and not censor leaders and I don't know people who have power
Mhm.
and not censor power, I think maybe that's it.
Maybe.
Just
But
not
it's
censor.
like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, nothing.
I was gonna say like, um, I wonder if, and I'll probably look into it, the desire for leadership and structure is like a innately humanistic thing, and like therefore we can't exist without that because like nature in general has like structures, right? If we talk about like a frog in the Amazon, right? Like
Mhm.
a frog will eat something, right? But then like something's gonna eat the frog, and someone's gonna eat that. You know what I mean? There's always like structure is like innately part of the living experience, but like how we influence structures is what's like fucked up, right? Like I think.
Yeah, and then think about folks who have disabilities. What do these structures look like for them? Uh,
Right. Do they ever benefit from the structures we have now?
yeah,
They're
if
like,
everybody can't benefit from it, then I don't think is a thing. Then folks need to like work harder to figure out like how we can show it for everybody and not just like the main people or the most
right,
important folks because
right,
it's not working.
not working. Okay, so transitioning uh to a different question. Great word I used, right? Like,
I see what
you know
you
what I'm saying? Like that. Okay, so let's talk about eroticism and activism. We both like talking about this, right?
mean.
So I was reading this roundtable transcript from like these women, Ariana Cruz, Amber Jamila Musser, and like other people. And it's called Pornography and Desire, right? So in it, Ariana talked about this is very interesting about systemic and lethal violence towards Black people as a perverse erotic act. And when I read that, I was like what does that mean? Erotic act. And then she talked about like our ability to consume voyeuristic pleasure in like engaging with images of Black bodies being harmed. Like think George Floyd, Philando Castile, where the murders are like televised, right? And like how that idea of like voyeurism when it comes to harm with Black people, like it complicates our idea of like consent. So like, how do you feel about this? Like, how do you feel about I when I read this, I was like, whoa! I never thought of it as an erotic act in the most perverse way. People find
Um,
pleasure in us dying.
oh, definitely. I mean, I fucks with it. I mean, I agree. Oh, excuse me. I agree. Sorry, I had a hiccup burp situation. But anyway, I definitely agree. I mean, shit, it makes sense to me.
You're like, yeah,
Think about trauma porn. Think about like all the things that like
yeah,
we've been consuming and like how it even like I don't know affects the way we even like look at the world and how some people are just so like numb and they don't even realize that they're like engaging with this thing that is like
right,
constantly like just like I don't know like
eh,
it's bringing them down like
right.
you know um I think about have you seen them
No,
by Lena Waithe. It's called Them. It's a a series on Amazon Prime, and this just reminds me of that because it's just like I don't know. I was watching it and I'm just like, why? Um, but yeah, I was just like watching it like why? Because it was so much like harm and so much like destruction and like all these black people were just like being hurt in so many ways and just like why are we constantly watching like all these like I mean why do we have to constantly like take in all these like films that deal with like black people dying,
mhm,
black people never succeeding,
mhm,
black people never getting the things that like they want. Can
mhm.
we watch a movie with like just black people being happy? You know?
And you have that right, which is like a valid aspect of the Black. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't.
Oh, um, that is like a valid part of the Black experience, right? But
Mhm.
I feel like all we consume, like you were talking about, kind of, is that it's negative aspects of Blackness, right? Like you have that, and then like if you're not looking at that, you're looking at George Floyd taking his last breaths. You know what I mean? Like
And if you're not looking at that, then you have to like survive a system that's literally killing so many people. You
right,
gotta watch your mama go to work 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. because she a nurse and she gotta make that money, you know.
right.
Or you gotta watch yourself, you know, work, you know, two jobs, go to school, like drive an hour and 45 minutes to get home and go to the gym because, you know, you trying to, you know, have
Yeah,
a
IG model is too much.
you know, yeah, so much.
It's like, yeah, and like thinking about consent in terms of like TV shows and also like viral media of us being killed. Like, I really appreciate when people put trigger warnings. Because there's this like there's an understanding that you have to consent to watch this, right?
Mhm.
Posting that stuff and like consuming that media in general, I think a lot of us as Black people especially don't realize the internalized harm it's causing us by
Mhm.
consuming that. We're very desensitized, I think, to a lot of that stuff. It's wild, but yeah, that like voyeurism and like just watching it and getting not necessarily happy pleasure, but like stimulation in a way of like that is crazy to me. I was like, makes sense though, you know.
Yeah.
We gotta move on because I only have 3 minutes. So
Did you want to do a part two? I mean, you just do a part two and then just not rush through the last question.
Yes, we could. Let me think about it. Let's see where we're at. So, switching to something lighter. So, Audre Lorde's use of the erotic describes erotic acts as activities that give her intense joy or sharing positive feelings or experiences with other people. So, and maybe it ties into you being a black trans woman, but maybe not. What what acts of eroticism? Yeah, it could be sexual, but it encompasses a lot of more. Like she talks about building bookshelves and reading and painting and dancing as erotic acts, stuff that gives you pleasure and joy. What
Mm.
erotic acts do you partake in for yourself to
Mm.
navigate this crazy ass world?
I think really just making time to do the things that make me feel good. I like to paint. Like I love creating digital art. Um, Spending time with like folks in my community. Finding moments to just like take time to myself and just rest, listen to music, dance, um, breathe. Should just remind myself to take deep breaths. Cleaning up my room feels good. Setting goals. I really want to like work on my altar, and I keep forgetting. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. But
Mhm.
then also just like listening to my body, and that's erotic for me too because for so long I've like not listened to my body and like done things that people wanted me to do or did things that people expected me to do, um, and really just like sitting with myself and just like listening and just saying, "Damn, maybe I do need to shut up. Maybe I don't need to like engage in this conversation. You know, maybe I do need to step back. You know."
Yeah, I I love what you said about um, taking breaths, and I also loved how you talked about recognizing denying yourself pleasure in that way. And I think I did that for myself for a long time of of part of the trauma experience, right? Um Thinking I didn't deserve that. You know what I mean? Like or having this false notion that like engaging in eroticism and finding joys in things was not productive. And it took a long time for me like to dismantle that thinking. Um Now I'm good. Shoot. But yeah, I think for myself, I take joy in writing, obviously, and
Oh
I
yeah.
take um joy in reading, and I take joy in like sitting out in the sun and like regardless of how hot it is, like I just love the feeling of just like it feels like what's that anime character it's like a super saiyan, you're like do 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 do, like you get so much energy, you're like whoa.
Mm.
Um, I love like buying flowers for myself and like
Ooh,
picking flowers.
yeah,
That's
like
erotic for me. Like, ooh, this one looks cute, or this one looks cute, or like getting good fruit at the farmers market. That sounds so weird, but like, yeah, I think those are all erotic acts for me. But I'm glad that you have activities that you can do that release you of the pains of like navigating as a black trans woman in capitalism because it fucking sucks.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, lastly, also just like I moved into this new place and I'm always just like, I don't know, trying to figure out what I gotta do. Like, oh, I'll put flowers up or I don't know. I've never had my own space, you know? This is my first time really having my own space. I mean, I'll be broke, but I'm like, it's worth it. It's worth it to just be here and not have to answer to anybody or you know.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, Kelly, I'm out of time. That was it. You have anything to add?
No, I don't. This class sounds amazing, and I'm excited to see. I guess what you like. I guess talk to you more about what you learned in the class. You know, I
Yeah.
know it's over now, but I'm excited to talk to you more about it later on because we haven't really talked about the class. But I'm excited to talk to you more about it someday. And that book, I'm really gonna read it because I have it and I want to read it. So
Oh, yeah, we should grab lunch and talk about it. I've learned some really cool shit in there. Um, we'll get into it, but this we read this book called Flaming, and it was talking about like um, gender sexuality in like Pentecostal churches,
it
and
sounds familiar.
it sounds like it's like how it's assumed between like the preacher and the churchgoers, and like how masculinity is challenged or feels like it's being challenged from other people. It's crazy. I was like, holy shit, it was so good. I'm not doing it justice, but yeah, I appreciate you
Of
doing
course.
it.
Make
And
sure you read that book, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia by Sabrina Strings.
oh yes, I will.
Maybe your professor can hear that too. Maybe she already read it. So
I don't know. Yeah, text me the link because I will get. Cause I we have to talk about eventually about like fatness and how um wow,
how it intersects with race.
yeah, it's how it intersects with race, and I'm like, so good. I'm so excited to read it. Um, anything else I have to add? No, that's it. Protect Black trans women at all costs.
Yes.
Farthest from proximity of power. Um, fuck white supremacy. Mm,
Burn this shit down. Um,
democratic socialism is the way to go.
Remember trans power and fight for trans lives.
Mhm.
Um,
Protect Black women.
um,
Protect the most vulnerable amongst us. Amongst us.
hey, Black people.
Hey, Black people. Yes, Kelly, you are my friend. We're very close, but this is labor, so I appreciate working
Yes, of
and
course.
helping me. You know what I mean? This is labor. I will pay you in love
Yes.
and appreciation. She's like, yeah, I don't care.
Also show up for Black trans folks and folks who exist outside the binary because there's so much more. There's so many more genders and people who have different identities that we don't talk about and uplift.
Absolutely.
Uplift that.
Up with that. Stand for nothing, fall for anything. Go out and
Okay.
protest.
Are we naming things like?
Yes, just anything. Listen, the most dangerous thing is not overt racism. It's not necessarily the George Floyds and the Philando Castiles.
Is white
The
supremacy?
evidence of it is white supremacy, and it is the daily choice to be indifferent to criminal acts. It is dangerous to be indifferent, to be unfazed by Black people being killed. That's it. That's all I got.
You said it.
Period. Love you, kiddo. Appreciate it. Gotta go.
You read Angela Davis's abolish. Is it abolish prisons? Prison abolition.
Yes.
This little
I read
like
pieces of it.
okay. I know that was random, but okay.
We'll talk. All right. Well, thank you.
Bye.
Love you. See you later. Bye.